What happens when a doctor says, "I'm tired of Earth, I want to leave"? This is the incredible true story of how Dr. Mae Jemison traded her clinic for space. The core of Dr. Mae C. Jemison's monumental journey is captured in a simple, painful truth. As a young black girl growing up in Chicago, she was deeply obsessed with stars and astronauts, yet the world around her gave her no permission to dream that big. For her, the cosmos were not just distant points of light, they were potent invitations to adventure, to scientific discovery, and to a realm where the ordinary rules of gravity and society seemed to dissolve into possibility. But the stark reality was a direct and painful contradiction to her own image. The dream of becoming an astronaut in the 1960s was universally defined by the faces of the Mercury, Gemini, and Apollo missions. These faces were, without exception, white and male. This absolute lack of a reflection in the history books was not a neutral absence. It was a potent, discouraging, and systemic message that screamed from every textbook and television screen. This magnificent future of exploration is reserved. You do not belong here. Think about the subtle, constant erosion of confidence this silence creates. When a child flips through glossy picture books showing the pioneers of the final frontier and sees nobody who shares her gender or her skin color, she is forced into a devastating internal conflict. She has to either dismiss the dream as unrealistic, a fantasy meant for others, or she must embrace the staggering, lonely fact that she must fundamentally change the very reality of the world before she can even begin to chase the stars. The societal pressure was immense. The space program itself was born and developed within an era of deep segregation and institutional racism. For a young black woman, the path was already complicated by the fight for basic civil rights and equality. To simultaneously claim a spot in the most elite, technologically advanced, and historically exclusive club, that of an astronaut, was considered an act of profound, almost impossible audacity, and often met with foolish dismissal. She was told, explicitly and implicitly, that space was not for her. This wasn't necessarily a single, dramatic moment of confrontation, but rather a persistent, wearying chorus sung by systemic barriers and casual, everyday dismissals. Teachers, career counselors, and even well-meaning family members, all bound by the limitations and biases of their time, might have unconsciously steered her toward more realistic and acceptable careers. They might have advised, be a nurse, be a teacher, be a doctor, use your intelligence wisely, but an astronaut? That's simply impossible for you. This constant barrage forced her to internalize the limits placed upon her by the outside world. Yet, amidst this pervasive negativity, Mae found a crucial lifeline, the power of fictional representation. She often cited science fiction as a critical source of strength. When the real world denied her image, characters from the imaginative realm offered validation and possibility. She pointed specifically to Lieutenant Uhura from the original Star Trek series, a black woman who served as a communication officer on the Starship Enterprise. Uhura was an image of a liberated future, a direct contradiction to the historical and contemporary reality. This underscores a vital truth. When the physical world denies reflection, fictional representation becomes a revolutionary act. Seeing Uhura on a TV screen wasn't just entertainment, it was visual proof that the future could look like her, even if the painful present did not. This small window of possibility provided the mental fortitude needed to reject the pervasive cultural lie that black women were incapable of reaching those monumental heights. The true measure of her early struggle lies in her resolute choice to not let this absence defeat her. Instead, she deliberately channeled that void and let it fuel her ambition. The lack of a historical reflection didn't make her abandon the dream. It sharpened her resolve. It made her realize she had to become the reflection she desperately needed to see. She understood clearly that the path to space would not be handed to her. It would have to be forged, broken down, and rebuilt entirely by her own formidable intellect and relentless ambition. This struggle is the powerful, necessary prologue to one of the most significant chapters in American and global space exploration. It is the story of a young girl who, despite being continuously told to stay grounded, only ever looked fiercely upward, knowing that to truly succeed, she had to not only join the ranks of pioneers, but fundamentally change forever who those pioneers could be. This profound early battle is what makes her ultimate triumph, orbiting the Earth 127 times, so universally resonant and so central to the inspiring narrative of Black success. The relentless pursuit of a dream, especially one so aggressively denied, demands more than just passion. It demands calculated, multi-layered action. Having absorbed the discouraging message of the history books, Dr. Mae C, Jemison decided that the only way to prove the impossible wrong was to become spectacularly, undeniably qualified. She didn't just break the mold, she obliterated it. Her journey began not in a cockpit, but in a classroom and a laboratory. Jemison didn't choose an easy path. She chose brilliance. She enrolled at Stanford University at the astonishingly young age of 16, earning a Bachelor of Science degree in chemical engineering. But that was just the beginning of her arsenal. She immediately transitioned to Cornell University Medical College, securing her medical degree. This wasn't merely acquiring credentials, it was establishing a foundation of excellence so robust that any future panel, committee, or skeptic would be left without a single argument against her capability. She was not just qualified, she was overqualified. She was building a shield of unparalleled achievement. Imagine the sheer discipline required. While her peers were settling into careers Mae C, Jemison was mastering two vastly complex fields, engineering and medicine. This unique, powerful combination wasn't random, it was strategic. She was cultivating the exact skill set needed for the future of space exploration, the precision of an engineer combined with the life-saving knowledge of a physician, able to troubleshoot sophisticated systems while also managing human life under the harshest conditions. But her commitment to service and exploration went far beyond prestigious degrees. Before she even looked toward the stars, she dedicated 2.5 years of her life to the most fundamental and grounding form of humanitarian work, volunteering with the Peace Corps. Stationed in Liberia and Sierra Leone, she served as the Peace Corps medical officer. This experience was vital. She wasn't just patching up wounds, she was managing the healthcare system for American volunteers, developing research projects on various vaccines, and supervising local staff. This period was the ultimate test of resilience. It demanded leadership under extreme pressure, required resourcefulness where resources were scarce, and instilled an unbreakable understanding of global human need. It proved her capacity to remain calm, analytical, and effective in high-stakes, isolated environments, precisely the qualities required when strapped into a spacecraft hurtling through the vacuum of space. She had demonstrated that she was not only intellectually brilliant, but ethically grounded and globally focused. With her armor of qualifications complete, a master-level engineer, a medical doctor, and an experienced field humanitarian, she finally turned her gaze back to the dream that had been dismissed in her childhood, NASA. The year was 1987. The Challenger disaster had tragically occurred just a year prior, making the selection process more rigorous, more emotionally charged, and intensely competitive than ever before. Jemison formally applied to the NASA Astronaut training program. The numbers were staggering. She was one of approximately 2,000 highly qualified applicants. 2,000 people, each representing the pinnacle of their respective scientific, military, or engineering fields, all vying for just a handful of slots. It was the ultimate test of meritocracy, a place where background, theoretically, meant less than sheer competence. Yet, for Jemison, the challenge was double. She was not just competing against others, she was competing against decades of history that suggested someone who looked like her could not, and should not, succeed at this level. Every interview, every physical test, and every psychological evaluation was a battle against historical inertia. But her unique resume spoke louder than any prejudice. The selection committee couldn't deny her engineering background, nor her medical expertise, nor the real-world, high-stress management skills honed in West Africa. And then the call came. Dr. Mae C. Jemison received the life-changing news. She was selected as one of the 15 candidates to enter the NASA Astronaut training program. She didn't just apply. She overcame the odds of one in 2000. She didn't just earn a spot. She earned the right to stand shoulder to shoulder with the world's most elite explorers. She had shattered the mold not by force, but by constructing a fortress of excellence so formidable that society had no choice but to let her through the gates. This was the moment the dream became destiny, transforming a young girl who was told no into a pioneer who would soon prove the world profoundly wrong. Her action was her argument, her qualification was her ultimate triumph. The moment of truth arrived in 1992. After years of rigorous training, relentless study, and proving her competence against every historical and institutional bias, Dr. Mae C, Jemison stood ready. This was the culmination of the dream that had been dismissed in her childhood, the ultimate defiance of the world that told her she did not belong among the stars. Her journey had been a powerful demonstration of excellence, and now it was time for the universe to witness it. On September 12, 1992, aboard the Space Shuttle Endeavour on mission STS-47, Dr. Mae C, Jemison launched into the heavens. As the shuttle broke free of Earth's gravity, she didn't just carry cargo or crew. She carried the weight of history and the hopes of generations of people who had been told their place was on the ground. When Endeavour settled into orbit, Dr. Jemison officially and definitively made history. She became the first African-American woman to travel to space. This single, resounding fact transcends mere record-keeping. It was an iconic moment of symbolic and scientific justice. It was the visual proof that the little black girl staring up at the Chicago sky decades earlier had not been wrong. It was the world that had been limited. Her presence in that spacecraft was a direct, undeniable rebuttal to every stereotype, every lowered expectation, and every closed door she and countless others had faced. She was not merely a passenger or a symbolic figurehead. She was a mission specialist, a scientist, and a physician actively engaged in the demanding work of space exploration. Her primary role during the 8-day mission was to conduct bone cell research and experiments on motion sickness, contributing crucial data to the scientific community. The environment itself was the most extreme laboratory imaginable, demanding her full expertise as both an engineer and a medical professional. Every minute was dedicated to disciplined, precise research, proving that her unique combination of skills was perfectly suited for the frontier of human knowledge. Imagine the view, orbiting Earth 127 times. With every single revolution, she gazed down upon the planet that had once tried to confine her, seeing the entire globe, the continents, the oceans, the atmosphere, without borders, without walls, and certainly without segregation. It was a perspective shift that few human beings ever achieve, and for her it carried an added, profound significance. She was literally above the prejudice, fulfilling the most extraordinary human aspiration. The imagery of her in orbit is pure, undeniable genius in action. She wasn't just observing the stars, she was among them. She wasn't just reading history, she was rewriting it in the very fabric of space and time. Her achievement was not just a personal success, it was a universal victory for inclusion and human potential. It instantly broke the antiquated mental image of who an astronaut was, and more importantly, who an astronaut could be. Her success resonated instantly, sending a seismic shockwave of inspiration back across the planet. For every young girl, particularly those of color, who dreamed of science, math, or space exploration, she became the visible, tangible proof that those dreams were valid, achievable, and necessary. She transformed the fictional hope provided by television characters into concrete, historical fact. She stood as a beacon, challenging the entire educational system and the corporate world to acknowledge and nurture talent wherever it resided, regardless of race or gender. Dr. Mae C, Jemison's voyage aboard the Endeavour cemented her place not just as a pioneer of spaceflight, but as a towering figure in the history of human rights and educational advocacy. Her 8 days in space and her 127 orbits were far more than a scientific mission. They were a declaration of independence from limitation, a triumph of merit over bias, and a breathtaking, luminous moment of black excellence that will inspire generations to come. Her presence in space made the impossible an undeniable reality. The spectacle of Dr. Mae C, Jemison orbiting the Earth was not the end of her story, it was the explosive beginning of her legacy. Her physical journey into space served as the ultimate proof of a philosophical truth. She proved that the only limit is the one you accept. This profound statement is more than just a motivational slogan. It is a challenge to every single person watching, listening, and dreaming. If a black woman, born in a time and place where systemic barriers actively work to keep her grounded, could master both engineering and medicine, command a place in the Peace Corps, and then beat out thousands of elite candidates to perform scientific research above the clouds, what excuse remains for us to hold back our own potential? Her achievement redefines the concept of the impossible. For decades, going to space was the highest expression of human potential, meticulously guarded by race, gender, and military hierarchy. Jemison didn't ask for permission to enter. She built a fortress of credentials so undeniable that the gates simply had to open. She demonstrated that when the world tells you there's a ceiling, the correct response is not to look for a ladder, but to build a rocket. The power of her example lies not only in what she did, but in the ripple effect of her visibility. Her image in that blue flight suit, weightlessly floating against the dark expanse of space, became a permanent fixture in the collective consciousness. It validated the quiet ambition of countless young minds who had previously only seen their dreams mirrored in fiction. She transformed aspirations from a fantasy into an achievable career path. Her orbit was a direct, clear signal to millions of black and brown girls and every young woman interested in STEM fields, stating unequivocally, "You are smart enough. You are capable enough. And your seat at the table is waiting, even if that table is hurtling through space." This is the moment for us to reflect inward. We must look at the constraints we have placed on ourselves, the realistic expectations we have accepted, and the subtle narratives of self-doubt we have allowed to take root. Dr. Jemison's story serves as an active intervention against those limiting beliefs. If we accept the premise that she overcame such immense historical and institutional resistance, then we are obligated to examine our own excuses. Think of the dream you have postponed, the project you shelved, the career change you feared, or the degree you felt you were not smart enough to earn. These internal barriers are often more insidious and difficult to dismantle than the external ones Dr. Jemison faced. Her journey teaches us that competence is the ultimate currency, and preparation is the unstoppable force. You must arm yourself with knowledge, commitment, and unrelenting focus until your qualifications speak louder than any doubt, internal or external. And so the critical question remains, and it is a question aimed directly at you, the listener, the viewer, the aspiring creator. What impossible goal are you making possible today? This is not a theoretical exercise. This is a call to action powered by the legacy of a history maker. Are you breaking the mold in your industry? Are you pursuing the education everyone said was too difficult? Are you founding the company they said would fail? Are you daring to teach in a way that truly changes lives? Dr. Jemison didn't stop at becoming an astronaut. Her legacy continues through education advocacy, technology promotion, and running her own companies focused on science literacy. Her entire life has been a mission to ensure that the next generation never has to see an empty reflection in the history books again. Join this lineage of change. Use her courage as your fuel. The commitment to achieving what the world calls impossible is the very hallmark of true success. Take a moment right now. Acknowledge the ambition that burns within you, the ambition that society once tried to extinguish. Name that goal. Declare it. Tell us your goal in the comments. By sharing your ambition, you participate in her legacy, you claim your power, and you take the first, most crucial step toward your own orbiting triumph. The universe awaits your move. And listen, if Dr. Jemison's story fueled your ambition, make sure you don't miss the next one. Hit that subscribe button right now so you can keep getting inspired every week. And if this story moved you, please tap the like button. It helps us tell more stories of incredible human success. Now, go make the impossible possible.